Hi, welcome back to the show. If you are watching on YouTube, then you see me holding up these really big, colorful index cards. If you're not watching, you can imagine what I'm holding up. But here's the thing, I was in my office and I was cleaning out the closet and I found these. And these cards are the notes that I use to present. I think I remember this was a women's group. It was like a women's luncheon more than 10 years ago. And it was a presentation that I gave, and it was on living your best life. So when I found the cards, I got excited because I thought, oh, this is going to be fun and probably something that I could share here on the podcast. And so as I sat down to read through my notes, look, I'm gonna be honest, my smile changed a little bit. And not because what I have here was bad or that I disagreed with what I had written. The ideas were pretty solid. It's just that I could see and feel the difference between who I was then and who I am now. But honestly, my smile came back when that realization set in. And that's when I knew I still would use these as the basis of today's podcast. And so, what hit me when I was looking at these cards is that I wasn't really talking about living your best life back then. What I was really talking about was how we can learn to live our life by focusing on what we already know about ourselves and how we learn to live with ourselves as life unfolds. So let me explain. First of all, I think this is a great conversation and it matters because we're in a world that is constantly telling us a lot of things, right? There are messages flying at us all the time. And even maybe from me in the past, right? I talk about leveling up, upgrading, optimizing, hustling, fixing, improving, setting goals, being strategic, right? All the things. And somewhere along the way, a message can creep in that sounds like if you're not happy, aligned, confident, fulfilled, and clear about your goals, you must be doing something wrong. And so if I've ever alluded to that and made any of you feel that way, I'm going to apologize right now because life doesn't work that way. And I know, and especially as I continue to grow and evolve, and I'm 54 years old now and I have a little bit more time under me. I know that life has seasons. I know life is always changing. I know that life stretches us, it can humble us, and it is always asking us to connect with who we are as we develop into new versions of ourselves. And so, what I've learned over time is that living well isn't about getting life right. Living well is about staying connected to yourself, especially when life changes. So today we're going to revisit some of these 10 ideas, but I'm not going to give it to you as advice. I'm not going to sound preachy. I'm not going to tell you these are the 10 rules to happiness or the 10 secrets to living your best life. What I am going to share are some reminders that I hope will ground you and help you connect with yourself in a deeper way wherever you are at the moment. And I want this message to come across not so much as motivation, but really about integration. I would love for this message to connect with you in a way that says, I'm bringing all these different elements together and bring all these different parts of me together. I'm going to just find my way to step into flow or be more aligned with who I already am as I continue to grow and evolve into who I can become. So, everything that we're talking about today is going to come back to one core idea that alignment isn't something you achieve once, it's just something you return to time and time again. It's like stepping in and out of that river that's flowing. The river's already flowing, and there's nothing you can do to change that. But it's whether or not you've stepped into it or out of it. And if you realize you've stepped out of it, how do you just return and get back in alignment? Because often the way forward sometimes requires us to look back. And that's sort of what I did over the last 30 minutes as I was reviewing these notes and also just thinking about the message that is coming from reviewing who I was at the time I wrote the notes and why I wanted to share that with you. Because again, the way forward sometimes does mean that we have to look back a little bit, and not with judgment, but with maybe some curiosity and definitely a lot of compassion. So here are my 10 evolved reminders. That's how I look at this new list. So I'm going to pull out from this previous talk some of the most important things I want to share with you. And the first one, again, this serves as a reminder for all of us, is to be intentional about how you show up. Now, in my talk, I refer to this as choose happiness. We always want to choose happiness, don't we? But let's just get real about what this really means. What I really wrote about here is just be intentional about how you show up. It means that it's beyond just waking up happy every day. It's about recognizing that even on the hard days, we still have a say in how we can meet the moment. That on some days, maybe we meet it with optimism, but on other days, we meet it with raw honesty. And sometimes it looks like choosing not even to engage in it because it's just going to drain us. What I'm really saying is that you get to decide what that means for you. You get to decide what and how you show up in any given moment. Sometimes we have to respond to something, but we don't have to react to something. We might have to engage and ask questions, but we can choose to keep our emotions between the lines. And I think living well starts when we stop giving in to these outside circumstances, because our circumstances don't define us. Our circumstances are things happening around us. What defines you is so much more. So be intentional about how you show up at any moment, in any situation, in any conversation. That's my first reminder. My second reminder for you is, like a river that flows, water can change the shape of rocks, and we know that to be true. So life can shape us, but it doesn't have to change us or harden us. In other words, yes, life will challenge you, and that may not be optional. But what is optional is whether you close your heart or deepen it. Now, I'm not talking about the immediate response to something that might be happening around you that's really hard or challenging. We're all human. And so we may have a visceral reaction, we may have an emotional reaction. But if you can find a way to get back into really a space that allows you to review what's happening and pull out some lessons from what's happening, allow yourself the opportunity to understand, unpack, and learn from it so that you can take those lessons with you, then those hard times will do so much to help you with your growth, because every difficult time in your life has carried some message or information. You didn't know it at the time. Maybe you didn't even want to see it at the time. And I totally get that, because there have been plenty of times in my life that were really challenging. And at that moment, I didn't want to hear this message. But now, looking back on it, I am seeing it through a different lens, and I'm able to pull out the lesson, pull out the information, maybe even see how I could have done something differently. And not by putting blame or guilt on myself, but just looking at it through a lens of some logic or asking myself some questions. And so I just believe that there's a certain amount of time, and that time can be different depending on what that situation was. But after some time, we can allow ourselves the opportunity to learn from those hard times instead of resisting it. And I think when we do, we can come out wiser, not just tougher, but we can come out smarter. So let life shape you, not harden you. And my third reminder for you today is to practice gratitude. Practice gratitude that grounds you, practice gratitude that is real for you. I know there's a lot of conversation about the power of gratitude, and I've talked about it here before on Mojo. And here's what I want to make sure you know: gratitude is not faking it. It's not just repeating an affirmation. It's not just saying, how blessed you are. It's really understanding and choosing to be in a place that feels very grounded for you, where you're not pretending everything is okay, but you're choosing to notice what is still holding you up, even when things feel uncertain. You choose to connect with the things that are good in your life, that are positive. It is an opportunity for you to really look at all of the things that matter. And again, this kind of gratitude is not going to bypass any conflict or pain you might be feeling, but it could actually steady you enough to help you move through it. Whatever you look for, you'll find. So if you can find things to truly feel grateful for, I believe that that will expand and help you to see more positivity around you. And so that may not change the tough stuff you're going through, but it can support you as you move through it. Okay, number 4 I have here for you is to choose perspective when negativity feels easier. Okay, let's be honest. Negativity is easy. It is. Being positive takes more effort. Negativity is very easy. We can find it very easy to slip into a pattern of complaining and being negative. And again, what I said about gratitude is true here too. Whatever you want to look for, you're going to find. So if you want to look for all the reasons why your glass is half empty, you're going to find it. And if you look for all the reasons why you can have a much more positive outlook on things, you'll find that too. And so what I'm saying about this now is even moving out of the positive versus negative feelings and choosing perspective. Perspective is how we see things, and perspective takes intention. Perspective takes a pause and allows you to think about how you want to think about it. And so, perspective reminds us, it should remind you that whatever's happening right now might just be a moment, and it doesn't have to be a whole story. And I can tell you, after so many years, when I was going through some very hard times, very dark times in my 20s, I was in a very abusive marriage. My first marriage was very abusive. And at the moment, I might have felt like that was my whole story. But now looking back, I realized it was just a moment and it was not the whole story. And that reminder can change how we move forward. Number 5, follow what energizes you now. The key word in that is what is now, because what energized you before might be different today. I mean, your passions change, your likes and dislikes change, your values change and evolve. And just because a different passion lights you up today doesn't mean that what you used to feel passionate about wasn't real. It doesn't mean that you failed at something. It just means that you've changed. So follow what energizes you now. Energy is often really, I think, your best guide, because if you could just tune into how you feel about certain things, that honesty shows up and you'll start to see what gives you joy, what makes you light up, what gives you energy in your life right now. And it'll also help you get real about what might drain you. So pay attention to those things. And you know what? Pay attention to why something shifted for you too. Your answers for why things have changed can give you a lot of perspective about the path you're going in right now. So follow what energizes you now. It's okay to be a different version of yourself. That was the very next thing I thought about. After I cringed a little bit at what I wrote, I realized, oh, you know what? It's okay, because this shows my growth. This shows my evolution. It shows how my thinking has expanded. It shows my maturity. It shows so many things that I feel good about. And I realize that my energy now comes from different things, different topics, different people, different thoughts. And that's awesome, because it's just proof that we grow and evolve. And that leads into number 6. Just make peace with who you are in this season. You don't need to really make any excuses for who you are today versus who you were before. You don't need to have all the reasons why your next level is what it is. Maybe it's just taking the time to appreciate where you are at the moment. Like, make peace with who you are right now in this season at this moment. And I believe that self acceptance is the beginning of so many great things for us. And I think that self acceptance is not complacency. Self acceptance is the gateway for growth. Self acceptance is the beginning of personal development. And for you to be able to stand firm in this appreciation and love for who you are right now in this season, not to always be thinking about next levels and what you're going to look like and do and be like in 5 or 10 years from now, but who are you at this moment? Because All you have right now is today. And today is the foundation. It's the beginning of the next growth level for you. So if you can connect with who you are today and appreciate that, it actually will help you grow into the next version of yourself. All right. So here's my next piece of advice, or really my reminders for you, is to choose trust when fear is loud. What does that mean? It just means that there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of stuff happening around you in your professional life, in your personal life, on the news, on social media, right? All these things coming at you, and you might have a certain reaction and some feelings about those things. And fear is going to show up. And when it does, I want you to stop and ask yourself if it's real. Because you know the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real, right? You know that, false evidence appearing real. So look, I also know that sometimes fear, this is something we don't like to talk about, but sometimes fear offers a little protection. Because if we kind of stand behind our fears, it will keep us from having to grow, level up, try new things, possibly fail. But all of that comes at a cost. And so if you can trust yourself more than anything, if you can bet on you that you might have the answer, that you might be able to figure it out, or that you have the resources to connect with other people who can help you figure it out, just trust yourself enough that when you choose to trust yourself, the fear starts to dissipate. Now, trust doesn't promise any particular answer or safety, but it does give you a way forward. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes that's enough. Just being able to move forward is all you need to get out of a scary or unpredictable situation. Number 8, anchor yourself to meaning. When life feels chaotic, the meaning you attach to something steadies you. And the meaning you attach to something becomes your reality or your perspective. So think about it, choose wisely, and understand that we're putting meaning onto things all the time. Don't be afraid to ask yourself some questions about that. Don't be afraid to ask yourself, is that really the meaning or could it be something else? Because we're always telling ourselves a story. And we are talking to ourselves all day long, more than we talk to anyone else. So just examine what it is that you're saying. Examine the meaning you're putting on things, on thoughts, on experiences, on relationships, on conversations, and question if that meaning could be different. Because there's always something bigger than the moment itself. There's faith, there's values, there's purpose, there's perspective. And I think when we start to put our time and energy on that, that'll help us from being consumed by what could just be a temporary situation. So just be aware of the meaning you're putting on things and anchor yourself to a meaning that is going to move you forward, not keep you stuck. And that moves right into the next one. Number 9, stop letting guilt run the show. Yes. Guilt can show up in a lot of ways. And sometimes we believe that guilt is really something positive. Like, honestly, your guilt can masquerade as responsibility, but that's not the same thing. In other words, your guilt keeps you tied to old expectations, and it might keep you stuck somewhere because you feel that you have a responsibility to a situation, or you have a responsibility to an individual, or you have a responsibility to a certain objective. And what I'm saying here is, again, ask yourself important questions. Because if you are doing something out of guilt, you are creating dysfunction around the situation. And by releasing guilt, you will create space for healthier choices. When we operate out of guilt, we definitely are putting ourselves last. And when we operate out of guilt, we are shifting our priorities. And so if you can release some guilt, if you can really stand firm in making decisions that you know are right for you, that this also means exercising boundaries sometimes. It just means that we are going to make these decisions based on what we feel is right for ourselves, based on who we are today at this moment, rather than what we think others expect of us. And so, again, you can be a responsible individual without selling yourself out. You can release that guilt so you can open up space for making healthier decisions and healthier choices that allow you to move closer to the things that you want. And lastly, rebuild trust with yourself. We talked about self acceptance and self love a minute ago, but what I want to now wrap up with is this concept of self trust. And self trust isn't loud, it's really quiet, it's very steady, it's earned, because every time you listen to yourself, you anchor and get deeper within that confidence, with that knowing, with that strength. You act with integrity, and you learn that at the end of the day, all you have is you and what is right for you. And when you can trust yourself, when you realize that you are enough, when you realize that you are smart enough and capable, that you already possess great gifts and talents, and that you have so much to offer to the world, when you start to find the confidence and trust that you can make good decisions for yourself, that you can move forward, that you can reinvent yourself or get out of any situation, even if it requires help, even if it requires support, more information, but that you have the ability to put yourself on a new track. You have the power to change your mind. You have the power to change your thoughts, and it's your right to do so. That changes everything about how you move through life. So rebuild trust with yourself. Make this the year that you fall back in love with yourself. Maybe it's the year you get to know yourself, and that begins, with self-awareness. And there are so many wonderful, amazing things that will come when you just align more with who you are. So I gave you a lot of stuff to think about. If there's one thing I know now that maybe I didn't fully understand then when I wrote this speech originally, I think I want to say it was 12 years ago. This is what I know now, is that living well isn't about becoming someone else. Reinvention or growth is not about morphing into some other person. It's just really, I think, more than anything, a lot of times it's just coming home to who you are again and again. And yes, you will grow and you will develop and you'll learn new skills. Maybe you'll do things better or differently, but at your core, it's about understanding that this is really a journey to just self discovery in terms of alignment, in terms of being integrated and being connected to who you already are. Like I said, it's about coming home to yourself. Now, you're allowed to evolve, you're allowed to outgrow old language. Absolutely, you are allowed to see things differently. This is not to be contradictory. It is the wisdom, though, that a lot of times what had us stepping out of that flow, stepping out of that river, was us getting further away from who we are at our core. And that stepping back into flow, back into alignment, is just seeing more of who we are. That's the wisdom there. So as you move into this week, my hope is that you don't pressure yourself to live up to anyone's expectations. Instead, you ask, how can I just show up with more honesty, intention, and self-trust? And that's how we move forward, by honoring where we've been as we really love how each day moves us forward. Thank you for spending part of your week with me time and time again. I really enjoy being able to share my thoughts with you. I'm always interested in knowing how this lands. So if you have anything that has really spoken to you in this episode, let me know, or go to our Facebook page, Monday Morning Mojo, and share your thoughts there, because this really matters. This is our one life and our one life to live. So I want to hear what really is important to you. That's why we do this podcast. So thanks again for joining me. Until next time, I will pray that you keep growing, keep reflecting, and keep choosing yourself.